What's good, YouTube? Sensational Sincere here, back with another Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video. We're here for August 23rd, 2019's reset. So let's get right into this and see what we got good for this week. Okay, so for our first gear items, we're going to head over to Camp Hudson. And here the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 2% post crit hit damage. So for our next gear items, we're going to head over to the base operations. And here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Vector 45 ACP for people who still let to run this weapon, and I think it's a good role for some PvE action. This one here has a gear score of 272. It has 21.50% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is destructive, responsive, and meticulous. And then also here we got a prototype performance mod with 3.50% seeker mine damage. Okay, so for our next gear items, we're still at the base operations, and you want to head over to the weapons vendor at the front. And here they have a heavy magazine spring with 3% crit hit chance, 11% magazine size, and 9.20% rate of fire. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the advanced weaponry vendor. We're still at the base operations. And here they got a custom L86A2 LMG with a gear score of 284. It has 22% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents it has is deadly, determine, and sustain. I think it'll be straight for some PvE missions maybe. And then also here we got a VX1 scope times 12 with 18% headshot damage, 4.50% optimal range, and 2.50% stability. Okay, so for our next gear items, you want to head over to the special equipment vendor. We're still at the base operations. And here we have a Cassidy with a gear score of 279. It has 347.50% stagger, and the talents it has is competent, talented, and you already know boomstick. Also here we have a military SA-58. This is a weapon I've never really ran because it's a 3-round burst weapon, but I figure I'd mention it for anybody that does like to run this weapon. This particular assault rifle has a gear score of 264. It has 21% enemy armor damage, and the talents it has is dominant, responsive, and deadly. Also here we have a infantry MG5 with a gear score of 271. It has 19% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is predatory, prepared, and adept. Also here we have a spec ops armor with the talent reckless on it. It has a gear score of 268. The armor is 1743, and its roll for electronics 1188. And the attributes it has is all resistance, enemy armor damage, and ammo capacity. Also here we have a spec ops pack with the talent specialized on it with a gear score of 264. Its roll for stamina 1123, and the attributes it has is health and ammo capacity. Also here for those guys that love to run smart cover, we have a prototype performance mod with 4% smart cover duration. And then also here we have a SR7 suppressor with 18% crit hit damage, 2% accuracy, and 5% optimal range. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to Camp Clinton. And here the special equipment vendor has a Liberator. If you don't have nothing better than a lightweight or a Lova. And this particular one has a gear score of 266. It has 21% enemy armor damage, and it actually has a good roll. Forgiving, accurate, and fierce. And then also we have a tactical SASG 12K with a gear score of 280. It has 303.50% stagger, and the talents it has is self-preserved, adept, and responsive. Also here we have a spec ops mask with the talent refreshed on it. It has a gear score of 266. It has 896 armor. Its roll for firearms 1142. And the attributes it has here is exotic damage, resilience, and increased kill XP. Also here we have another operator's vest with the talent reckless on it. It has a gear score of 271. It has 1972 armor. Its roll for stamina 1138. And the attributes it has is health, health on kill, and increased kill XP. Also here we have a prototype firearms mod excuse me, with 266 firearms and 2,905 skill power. And then also here we have a prototype performance mod with 2% post crit hit chance. Also here we have a heavy magazine spring with 12% magazine size, 4% crit hit damage, and 10.10% rate of fire. And also here we have a pro red dot sight with 18% headshot damage, 4.50% optimal range, and 6% headshot damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to Dante's Run. And here the gear vendor has a gunslinger's vest with the talent Vigorous on it. It has a gear score of 271. It has 1880 armor. It's roll for firearms 1165. And attributes we have is health on kill, skill haste, and ammo capacity. And then also here we got a prototype performance mod with 3.50% ballistic shield damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to Wolf's Den. And here the weapons vendor has a black market SASG 12S with a gear score of 264. It has 317% stagger, and the talents it has is vicious, fierce, and deadly. Our next gear items, we're going to head over to Autumn's Hope. And here the gear vendor has some tactical gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 269. It has 886 armor. It's roll for electronics 1212. And the talents it has is SMG damage, health on kill, and 8% skill haste. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to Madison's Stand. And here the gear vendor has a prototype stamina mod with 187 stamina and 3% damage to elites. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the Last Call. And here the weapons vendor has an MP7 with a gear score of 268. It has 22.50% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is destructive, self-preserved, and brutal. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Ward. And here the gear vendor has some gunslinger gloves with the talent Savaged on there. It has a gear score of 272. The armor is 855. Its roll for stamina 1262. And the attributes it has is assault rifle damage, pistol damage, and enemy armor damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to the Firewall. And here the gear vendor has a prototype performance mod with 7.50% support station duration. For our next gear items, you want to head over to the Crypt. Here the weapons vendor has an MG5 with a gear score of 280. It has 21% damage to targets out of cover. And the talents it has is talented, ferocious, and determined. I think you can probably rock out with this in a PvE mission. For our next gear items, we want to head over to West 34th Street checkpoint in the Dark Zone. So here we got a vertical grip FDE with 48% optimal range, 2% accuracy, and 2.50% stability. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 39th Street checkpoint in the Dark Zone. And here the Dark Zone vendor has a double barrel shotgun with a gear score of 262. It has 289.50% stagger, and the talents it has is responsive, deadly, and trained. And also here we got some Spec Op gloves with the talent Savaged on there with a gear score of 267. The armor is 868. It's roll for firearms 1184. And the talents we have, the attributes we have is assault rifle damage, pistol damage, and crit hit chance. I think this is a really good roll. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to West 46th Street checkpoint in the Dark Zone. And here the Dark Zone vendor has an M700 carbine with a gear score of 274. It has 150% headshot damage, and the talents it has is cool-headed, deadly, and elevated. And also here we got a tactical vest with the talent Rapid on there with a gear score of 280. The armor is 1,999. This roll for electronics 1249, and the attributes we have on this is skill haste, health on kill, and increased kill XP. And then also here we got a prototype performance mod with 4.50% post duration. For our next gear items, you want to head over to West 53rd Street checkpoint in the Dark Zone. And here the Dark Zone vendor has a prototype performance mod with 4% Seeker Mine damage. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 58th Street checkpoint in the Dark Zone. And here the Dark Zone gear vendor has the operator's vest with the talent Reckless on there with a gear score of 264. The armor is 1732, and its roll for stamina 1143. And the attributes we have on this is exotic damage resilience, health, and ammo capacity. And then also here we got an operator pack with the talent Inventive on there with a gear score of 266. The armor is 1231. This roll for stamina 1179. And then the attributes we have on this is health, and burn resistance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to Park Ave checkpoint in the dark zone. And here, the dark zone weapons vendor has a tactical UMP 45 with a gear score of 278. It has 22.50% crit hit chance, and the talents it has is predatory, responsive, and ambusher. Also here we got a military G36 with a gear score of 268. It has 19% enemy armor damage. And the talents it has is vicious, sustained, and focused. So here we have an M870 Express with a gear score of 271. It has 315.50% stagger. And the talents it has is deadly, brutal, and adept. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 53rd Street checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has an extended magazine with 118.50% magazine size, 2.50% crit hit chance, and 4.90% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 53rd Street checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has an extended magazine with 118.50% magazine size, 2.50% crit hit chance, and 4.90% rate of fire. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 42nd Street checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has a black market SASG 12S with a gear score of 264. It has 319% stagger, and the talents it has is adept, fierce, and talented. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 40th Street checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has a prototype performance mod with 6% first aid ally heal. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 34th Street checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has an operator's vest with the talent Vigorous on there with a gear score of 274. It has 1784 armor. Its roll for stamina 1238. And the attributes it has is all resistance, health, and increased kill XP. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to East 31st Street checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has a classic M44 carbon with a gear score of 271. It has 167 headshot damage, and this particular rifle has the talents prepared, destructive, and capable. And then also I mentioned this here, I don't use these, I've never used them, but in case anybody ever does, we got a quick release magazine here with 30% reload speed, 4% crit hit damage, and 3% crit hit chance. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to 5th Ave checkpoint in the dark zone. And here the dark zone vendor has a custom L86A2 with a gear score of 271. It has 22% damage to targets out of cover, and the talents it has is swift, competent, and brutal. And then also here we have operator's pack with the talent Relentless on there. It has a gear score of 274. The armor is 1289. Its roll for firearms 1176, and the attributes we have is health and bleed resistance. And then also here we got a prototype firearms mod with 260 firearms and 3050 health. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ2 Safe Room. And here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a tactical pack with the talent Inventive on there. It has a gear score of 271. It has 1274 armor. Its roll for firearms 1180. And the attributes it has is health and disrupt resistance. For our next gear items, you want to head over to DZ3 Safe Room. And here the Dark Zone weapons vendor got the whole PvE line up here with weapons. But here we have a Navy MP5 in with a gear score of 260. It has 20.50% crit hit chance. And this particular weapon has the talents vicious, swift, and ferocious. And also here we have a custom M870 MCS with a gear score of 269. It has 336.50% stagger. And the talents this has is self-preserve, destructive, and ferocious. And then also here we got an M700 tactical with a gear score of 276. It has 147 headshot damage. And the talents it has is determined, disciplined, and elevated. For our next gear items, you want to head over to DZ4 Safe Room. And here the Dark Zone gear mod vendor has a prototype performance mod with 4.50% support station healing speed. For our next gear items, we're going to head over to DZ8 Safe Room. And here the Dark Zone gear vendor has a Spec Ops mask with the talent Tenacious on there. It has a gear score of 279. The armor is 966. Its roll for electronics 1246. And the attributes it has is health on kill and disoriented resistance. And then also here we have a tactical pack with the talent Inventive on there with a gear score of 281. The armor is 1326. Its roll for firearms 1222. And the attributes it has is health and ammo capacity. And also here we got spec ops gloves with the talent Savage on there with a gear score of 268. The armor is 933. Its roll for stamina 1153. And then the attributes we have here is LMG damage, skill haste, and enemy armor damage. Alright everybody, thank you for tuning in to the Tom Clancy's The Division Vendor Reset video for August 23rd, 2019. Thank you everybody who tuned into it. I hope you were able to find something that you needed. Drop me a like if you hadn't. Hit that sub button if you hadn't. I appreciate that support. Also, I want to mention too that I stream on Twitch. Check me out on there. And I will holler at y'all with the next one. Everybody, take care. Peace.